we move to English.
Yes. Bem-vindos ao Innovations for the Future Game World Builder interview. Today we have Sandra from Colmeia 62. Thank you for accepting the invitation, Sandra.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and maybe we can start with a little bit of history. What is the history behind of the Colmeia 62, and what is the Colmeia 62 in your words?
Okay. So Colmeia 62 was started in 2020. And then, so it's been 3 years, a bit more than 3 years, and we had a lot of already different phases. So it's hard to make a short history, but I would say that it started with a few people from different origins, but all connected with one entity, which is Ericeira, which is the school in Montebon, Santo Isidoro, that brought us together. It's an alternative school that had the vision of creating a community larger than the school from the beginning. And few people from different times joined that school, became associates, contributed to supporting its development. And through this, we started to think about how could we create a community, but also revisit, because they are revisiting education. The pedagogy is really innovative in the way that they are bringing this new paradigm of how kids could learn at the same time content, but in a very natural way, organic way, by their interest, project-based. So somehow also adults, we want to explore new ways of living in this planet and how to cooperate more. And Reza is a lot about cooperation between the kids, between the ages. And also few people of that group, a lot of people actually of Enreza, know that it's we need cooperation also in our adult world, and we are missing community. So we started to talk, bring a vision together, and I think we were something like 10, 12 people. But then from that initial group, only 4 are still today in the Colmeia. So we went through a lot of phases where, of course, visions are not always the same. People are in different moments of their life. It's a commitment also to start such a project. It takes time on the weekends, after the working hours. When you have kids, it's also a challenge. So it took time to find a stable group that finally created the cooperative in 2022. And these are 8 people. And now we are also adding more and more families. We're going to be soon about 13 households.
Okay. How do you describe Colmeia 62 in your words? Where is this game world that you are putting, that you guys are putting in life, in manifesting?
Yeah, so Colmeia 62 is the idea behind that project is how can we, in a very autonomous way, and not expecting from governments or from anything to support us into living in community, how can we, with the strength that we have, build a project where we can buy a land together, have a shared property, so it's a collective property, it's not individual property. So going out of, this is my house, this is my space. If you cross it, you are crossing a line, like this is, how can we more naturally build community based on trust, based on cooperation, based on solidarity also? How can we allow different possibilities to coexist, financial possibilities, capacities in some areas, low capacities in other areas, and how can we make it work somehow, not trying to be all the same, but on the contrary, how can we put people together that are very different that maybe have different opinions, also political opinions, maybe, could, people vaccinated, not vaccinated, and still be a community and be okay with this. It doesn't mean that we are not trying to be all the same and think the same on everything, but we are really trying to work through diversity and make it work. Like, even if we don't agree on some things, we want that the community success is when we manage to be good at dealing with those differences more than trying to level, everything. So I think the core value is this: how do we create community that seems healthy for us, but also how do we use the system to create it, and how do we make it resilient, be able to continue through time, and even that we are free to be in or out without the project being stopped if we go out. So how can we still stay autonomous in our decision to be in or to be out? How can we make people coming in, going out very easily, so that the freedom is always there? You are not there because you committed and you have to be there. You are there because you have joy to be here, joy to contribute, and the day that you don't feel this anymore, then you can live in a very easy and organic way, and the group could acknowledge all the things that you brought and celebrate. So this is, I think, part of the core values. And of course, there is another aspect that is the ecological sustainability. This is really important for us. How can we build healthy houses that are respecting the environment? How can we get on the land and respect that land and bring abundance to it, and not just taking, but also how can we contribute to that land and bringing it a purpose for us, but also for our neighborhood in a very anchored way.
Thank you, Sandra. I hear that you already have a cooperative, that you are 8, that the school, the Ericeira, was one of an anchor for you guys to meet, but also for the project to flourish, because there is the school, there is an alternative school that the people identify with themselves. I think that is a very important element. And this dimension of ownership, I hear that you are very connected with, you use the word trust, with community land trust. Is the kind of community land trust that you have there, or that you are trying to build there. And the core value is this community, more than building communities, is community resilience. It's community to live in community during the time, with the difference and with what change, and also at the same time respecting the individuals that are there, the free, the movement in, going out. Also that ecology is a central value in the design. What is the moment of the project? Do you already have land? Do you already are applying for municipality? What is this? Where are in this logistical, more legal thing?
Yeah. So now we have a land, yes, that we bought. It took us 1 year to buy it, actually, to acquire it. It was after 5 or 6 lands that didn't work out, so we had a lot of up and downs in the group, and also when we found that land, because of the group that was there at the time, we read before that when you find the land, when you're building community and you find the land, sometimes there are people of the group that will leave at that moment, and we thought, I don't see it happening in our project, but actually it did. It's very interesting to see that when the vision brings to a moment of concretization throughout one land, some people are just like, suddenly the commitment seems so important, like to go for that land. So my vision, am I able to realize my vision throughout that specific land? And yeah, we lost some people. But then, since then, every time that we had new people coming, they were like, oh, the land is amazing, because they don't have a projection yet. They know they have to cope with what is already, and they feel kind of, they feel that it's a moment where they can use that space to build their vision. So we can see really a difference between before the land and after the land. That was one thing I wanted to say. The cooperative is created, so the cooperative is the owner of the land. This is really important. We finalized our architecture project with an architect, Ricardo Moraes, that is an amazing architect. He's actually specialized in community architecture, and he supported us in a very organic way, which is bringing us together through different workshops and slowly building from vision to concretization. He made us play with little things at the beginning to actually visualize what was the scale of the project. So everybody had his house and his little thing, and we were playing with those toys. And so he slowly, from the vision of the whole project, brought it into an architectural project. And this was a path of around 6 months to lead us to this. And also, because of the scale of the project, he brought together a team with different combination of skills. And we also connected with this whole team of architects. So it felt that they were really part of our community. They are really part of our community, because they really understand who we are, what is the vision of the project. They are very connected. So we, even in the next days, we're going to start to work on the interior design of the project, now as the whole exterior aspect. And our project now is going to the Camera, and we're going to wait a few months to get our licenciamento. So
you are in the municipality of Mafra, between the ocean and Mafra, near Ericeira.
Yes, between Ericeira and Mafra, yeah.
For the ones that don't know very well the place. And you have, like, what is the story behind Colmeia 62? What is the story of the name?
The name? So we started with Enrezar, and we loved that name, obviously, and we were one part of the project, but then we decided to create our own cooperative, because we really believe that systems, depending what you do, if you do a school, if you do a housing project, it's not the same. So we had to adjust the legal system to the need. And then we had to find a name for this cooperative. And slowly came this idea of being bees. And because we what we want to do is not just creating a home for our group. We have always in this vision the fact that our world is going through a direction where communities are going to be more and more needed. We already see it. Sometimes it's not very conscious yet, but we really believe that communities are going to grow more and more. We are not even the pioneers. We are just a second wave of people working towards community. And somehow we want to create this project for our community, but we want to be able to spread that method to others when it will be the time that we are able to transmit everything that we learned in that process, because we learned from the pioneers. We did things differently, and probably the next ones would also be able to learn from us and then do even better than what we are doing. So this idea of pollinization was really part of our vision. And then the bees came, and then we thought about, oh, what's the house of the bees? Yeah, it's the Colmeia. And 62 came from one of the land that we almost were able to acquire, but then it didn't work out. And that land, the lot was 62. And we have few people in our group that are into numerology, and they were like, oh, 62 is actually a really nice, because, so I'm not one of the pros, but I remember one, like the 6 or the 2, I don't remember, is about cooperation, working together, community, and the 2 is love. And it was something around love and yeah, caring. So it's one or the other. I don't remember, but so 62 felt like a very good number. And also 6+2 is the 8, which is infinite and resilience. And so we liked also this idea. And we thought, but what happens if we don't get that land? And we thought, yeah, but we will just keep the number of it. It's okay. So that's what happens. And we love the fact that everyone is always asking about it. It's actually a joke now.
And when I hear the story the first time, what it comes to me, it was there is values, there is principles in the name of the inside of the name of the game world that you are building, and it's why I ask you to bring the story on the top. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And, there is also another element that you have in this game world that you are building that is very interesting to explore. Can you talk a little bit more how you organize between the team, between yourself, between the people that are making the project? What is, because you have these rituals of meeting every month, have a particular way of meeting. Can you talk a little bit about that and why it's important to do that work?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, when you enter in the Colmeia, so there is an integration process, and then when you are integrated, what you will experience in the project is 3 very important times. One is what we call the Círculo de Abelhas, so the bees circle. It's actually the moment where we take decisions. So everybody is part of commissions that are grupo de trabalhos, like working groups. During the week, some they meet every week, some they meet every 2 weeks. So you have, for example, Nino, which is the architecture building team. You have the Coração, which is part of the human part. Semear, who's part of the agriculture part. They started to prepare the land and everything. You have the Mel, who's the financial team. So all those groups, they are meeting every week or 2 weeks. Sometimes it's also upon need. And then we meet all together every 6 weeks at this decision circle, the Círculo de Abelhas. And we bring propositions in different ways. One is we have a proposition for the whole group to decide. Second is an information. We have to inform about something. And another one is we are preparing something and we would like to sense a little bit how the group feels about it. So we do a feeling turn of feeling, turno de sentimento. And everyone will say, okay, about this, my contribution is this, I feel good about that, maybe you can think about this. And then the group takes those insights and can bring it to prepare the proposition in the grupo de trabalho. So yeah, the idea is to be a moment where we take decisions. And when we start the meeting, we always connect, we always do a check-in, what's alive in us when we come. Am I in a good day, or am I disturbed by any thoughts or any situation in my life? Always taking care of this and be aware. The group is aware of how people feel. And then we will define some roles for the whole day. So you have always a facilitator with a support facilitator. You have always someone that's in charge of taking notes, also with a second person to support. Someone is in charge of the breaks, little breaks to bring some food and water. Someone is in charge of the gong. The gong is when the tensions are slowly raising in the group. The person doesn't have to say anything, just gong. And then everybody stops, breathe in, breathe out 3 times, and then we can talk again. So this avoids ping-pongs, tensions, power games during meetings, because everybody's conscious of, okay, something's happening, we just breathe in, breathe out, and that's amazing. That works so well. You don't need even to talk about it. It's just gone when you do the gong. And someone is responsible for taking some pictures to have memories, and yeah, so that's how we work. Another time is the forum. There is one day every 6 weeks also that we spend together to do what we call emotional compost. So we use a tool called the forum, and the forum is there. So it's not a day of work, it's a day of connection. So everybody comes and we open a space, we give some rules to hold the space that are clear to everyone. And then someone that has something that could be to his or her related to her personal life, or related to the project, or related to maybe a conflict that starts to happen in the group, then the person can go in the middle and we'll just bring it out, like bring it in a very natural way, like tell the story that is actually bothering that person. It could also be a celebration, like a joy, something that brings happiness. It can also be this, but most part of the time it's things that are bothering people. And then the whole group, without judgment, without bringing it back to, oh yeah, me too, when this person did this. No, it's not this. The idea is just to come then one after the other to the circle and say, when you said this, this is how I felt. And that's all. So it's really a way, and it's, I don't know how to explain it, but it's healing by itself. It's just beautiful. And it brings a lot of connection. So, and that's it. And then the third time is the open days. It's the days where we are connecting to the outside world. We invite people to join us for one day, eat together, and then we dedicate time and space to talk about the project, talk about what we do, respond to questions and answers. Yeah, it's really a moment of no work, it's not about the intimacy of the group, but it's about connecting to the outside world. And most part of the time, that's how people join the project, by coming to an open day and then starting to do the integration process. So we have those 3 times every 6 weeks. And so it's very demanding somehow, but it's working quite well. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I will call the attention of people for you talk about the circle, and we already have an interview with Rob about Circle Way. It's one of the ways of doing circle. You talk about the sociocratic process of taking decisions, and we already have an interview also with people that are bringing sociocracy to Portugal, and also forum. We don't have yet people talking about forum, but we will have. It's important. I'd like to make these connections for people to go deeper and see and perceive that already has a community in Portugal that are socializing this kind of social technologies. Right? And thank you, Sandra, for bringing them very alive to the space and bringing your example, saying this is the way we are doing. Why it's important to have these tools and to do this work as a way of creating community. Why, in your experience, it's important?
Yeah, so why is it important? Yeah, I didn't say it, but the decision circles are consent decision circles. So we use consent, which is different from consensus. Most part of the time people say, oh, it's consensus. Consensus is a bit different. Consensus, it's everybody has to say, I agree. In our consent decision-making process, it's another energy. People have to check with themselves, am I okay with what's going on? And then I would speak up only if I have a veto or concerns or something that are not aligning with what I believe is the vision of the project. Then I will bring it to the group. So the energy, and I'm gonna link it to your question, is very different, because it's not everybody giving his opinion on something, because then it's very, if the houses should be red or blue or white, I think everybody has a different opinion about it. So it can be very time consuming. And also if someone has an idea, but then everybody comes with different ideas, it's a bit demotivating for that person, because that person dedicated time and took space and time to work on that. And then, collecting every time the opinion of everyone is very drawing energy out. So the idea of consent is to accept, everyone accepting that if I'm not in that commission, I'm not deciding for what they are doing. I'm just checking if there is something that I truly in a very deep way disagree with, because it doesn't fit with my purpose or the purpose of the project. And then if not, I allow the rest of the group to actually take the decision, because they took the energy, dedicated time to do it. And in respect to this, I won't just bring all the time in a controlling way my opinions to try to control from in a distant way. So I think that's very important, because that allows something which is freedom of doing, of sometimes mistaking, of sometimes like it's going out of the perfectionism, because those perfectionisms, they are fighting each other all the time, because we have different point of views. So it's really an act of acceptance of, okay, it won't be as I would have done it, but if I don't feel a deep sense of it's not okay for me, then I let it go. And I think in our project, sometimes it's not easy, especially when we are talking about the houses, we are talking about how it's going to look, or, it could be very... So we collect opinions, but then we let the people who are willing to doing it. And I think that created a sense of trust in our community a lot. I'm talking more now about the working part and the realizations, the doing. But it's also nourishing the being. And I think the forum part is also nourishing the connection, because there is no space in our society where you can just vent how how you feel about something in a safe way, with no judgment, with no, oh, you cannot say that, there's this space where you can completely, bring this thing out. And if someone is impacted by what you said, the person will also be able to have an impact digestion, people that will support this person. So, you see what I mean? Like if someone comes into, and then someone else feels impacted. Also, I didn't say that, but in every moment that we meet, there are also two people that have the role of being impact digestion team. And so they would take care of someone that was impacted during the meeting, during the forum, during another moment. So the person doesn't go back home with this, feeling of, oh my God, I'm so frustrated. I'm so impacted about what was said. So yeah, that's really something important. And I think by those different tools, we are taking care of managing a very complex and long-term project, but at the same time taking care of the human, the emotions, the connection, the trust. And I think that's really something that goes together and that is nourishing all the individuals of the project, because I think that's what we need. We know a lot how to do things in our world, but we are usually asked to put aside the emotions, put aside how you feel. Doesn't matter. You just have to be productive. And this is the paradigm that we don't want to live in this project.
Thank you, Sandra. Very beautiful saying. And why it touched me, what you are saying, because you are experimenting with that for 3-4 years. You are living that every day, and you are bringing your wisdom, meaning the knowledge of your experiment in this context. And thank you for bringing that. That is very rare and very necessary in this moment.
Thank you.
You guys also are experimenting with a different mindset in the economical context and financial thing. Can you say more about that model, the inspiration, what you are doing?
Yes, I'm going to try to wrap it up. It's not such an easy thing, but yes, also, okay, first of all, from the beginning of this project, the initiators, we like to talk about initiators and not founders, because founders feels like if you take them out, the whole thing's collapse. And our vision is really that we are just initiating something, but we hope it's going to last for generations. And even if we go as the initiators, the thing will be continuing. So with the initiators, we thought, okay, we want to do this project, but we don't have we don't have to recreate everything. Let's go everywhere where communities are existing, and let's take the things that are working and let's put it together. That's really our strategy to move on. So the forum, we took it from Tamera. Someone of our group got a training in Tamera and could bring this to our group as a tool. Same for the consent decision making. We heard about it in different collectives, and then we thought, okay, it makes sense to do it that way. And for the financial system, it was the same. We heard about one system in France on the cooperative model called Les Passages, and there was an eco village called Eco-Ravi in the south of France that we talk about in the video presentation of the project, and they've been working already 10 years in this system. So for us, it was like, okay, it's working, same as you say, they are living with it every day and it's working, and they already had renewal of people in the project. They seem to have stability. They are really, really inspiring for us. So what is this system? And we started to dig. And we thought, okay, there is really something interesting there to explore in the financial system. And then, so we went deeper into this, and we checked how we could adjust it to the Portuguese law, because of course laws are different, regulations are different. It took around 6 months to actually go to the bottom of it and say, okay, it's feasible in Portugal. We just need to adjust a few things, but we will Portugalize the model. And that's what we did. So we have status based on this model, and everything is exactly copy pasting with little differences in Portugal. And we wish that model will spread. So the idea is to create a cooperative, because it's the only structure that allows by itself to be one person, one vote. Mm-hmm. Meaning that how can we align our vision to the legal structure? If you don't do this, you can meet together, be an amazing group and love each other and be really, really connected. But one day, in case of conflict, if you go to a judge and you bring your status, they will say, hey, like, I understand you had like some rules, informal rules, and that you were trusting each other, but now we talk about money. What's written in your contracts? What is written in the legal documents? So it's like a marriage contract, it's not a marriage contract. It's a divorce contract. We know it. As soon as we keep married, we don't need to look at it. We start to look at it when we're getting this divorce. So the idea was the same. How can we develop trust in our project, but knowing that our safety net is very healthy and allows that if we all fight against each other for any reason, that we will have a very fair way of dealing with the situation in our status. So that's how we created it. So the principle is to create a cooperative, one person, one vote. So we avoid power games with money. I have more money, more power to decide than you. So this is not possible in a cooperative. And we all invest in the cooperative, and then the cooperative buys the land, builds, and then is the owner and gives a right to use to its members. So no one is the owner of his house. Everybody has a right to use it as being part of the cooperants. So this is really important, because then we are all working for a common good somehow. It's not something personal, it's a common good. And we have houses, common areas, and yeah. So then in terms of money, the idea is that different possibilities are able also to be together. We believe in intergenerational, and as a way also to finance a project in a very organic way. Because if you divide the price of the construct forex, the project is around 4 point something million euros. It's a lot. If you divide and ask everyone to come with the same amount of money, then it's hard to know if you're going to bring the people in for who they are or what they have. How can we make sure of this if this is a strict objective? And we truly believe that if you bring people together only for what they have, money-wise, it's not possible to do a really connected project in terms of human combination, you see? Like for us, it's more important to put human before money. How can we do this? If we allow different people to be together and having a common objective, which is if we need 4 million, how can we have 4 million all together? And not each one having, because it's going to be around 15 to 18 households in the end. So it's around 200 to 230,000 per household. Okay. So if we ask everyone to come with this, I mean, it's impossible. It becomes an elitist project, and it's not part of our values. So what we know is also with intergenerational, naturally, you have different capacities. Elder people, usually they have a house, for example, that they can sell to come to the project. So they usually have more capital. Younger people, they are starting their life. So maybe they have more monthly revenue, but they have less capital. So how can we make it work, you know? So somehow what we allow is that everybody comes with what they have. They receive what they need. It's not the one that brings the more money that has the biggest apartment. It's what kind of family do you have? What is your need? If you are one person or a couple, you have a 2-bedroom apartment. If you have a 1 or 2 bedroom, if you have a family, then you have more rooms because you need. Okay, so that's the idea. And then it's a mix between bringing an initial contribution of a certain amount and monthly rents that allow slowly to bring your capital up monthly instead of bringing one capital amount at the beginning. So some people will bring it at the beginning, and some people will slowly bring the amount in a monthly rental. I'm trying to make a shortcut because it's much more complex than this, but the idea is that then someone who has zero money can still enter the project. And maybe someone even that doesn't have proper revenues, there are some jobs that will be possible to explore within the project. Agriculture, we want to have a little loginia. So there will be possibilities for people to live and work in the project and compensate what they cannot bring at the beginning. So yeah, the idea is to bring this balance slowly.
Okay, thank you for highlighting the main characteristics of the model that you are using in the economics dimension. I hear that you have an open day. People that are interested in knowing more about Colmeia 62 can go. I will put the contacts here in the description of the interview. You can go there and go in the open day, schedule with you guys the open day, and make more questions and see. I will also post the video, the presentation video of Colmeia 62.
Nice.
And one of the things that is very interesting in the way you are doing the work, it's exploring this dimension between the project and the community around. You already talked the school as a way of starting points what we have in common. What can you say more about the influence and how the community around the project is engaged in your design, in the designing of this project?
There are a few aspects that are connecting us to the outside world, I would say, to the larger community. I prefer actually saying this that way. So first of all, within the project, we have this wish, and we will see if the universe hears us and some people join. We don't want to create empty shells. So like I'm saying, we're going to have agriculture, but it will happen only if someone comes in the project and says, I want to develop the agriculture as an economical activity and to bring food to the community and to the larger community. If no one does it, we won't create it and say, okay, now guys, we have to do it and we have to split the work. Why? Because joy is always the first engine for us, it has to be joy and joyful. If there is no wish to do, we won't create an activity and then force everyone to share the burden of this activity, you see. So definitely we are very open to anyone coming with an idea, like, I want to create a repair bar. Okay, amazing. Like, the cooperative, we make it possible for you. Bring the project on. We're going to see how we can finance it. So it's, yeah, joy. And so the idea is to bring in activities that will connect us to the larger community. It could be a repair bar, it could be the agriculture, the loginia I was talking about. How can we create a sense of this is not only for us, but we want to serve our larger community? This is really important. In another way, it's actually in the financial model, and it's more subtle. But the project will be financed with the money of the people that come and lend it to the cooperative to actually bring the project out of the earth, from the ground. But then the other possibility is to have contributors. So what are contributors? Those are people that, for example, they love the principle of living in community. They would love to experience it one day, but it's not the moment in their life. They know they cannot either. You know, sometimes I heard a lot of situations of mothers that are separated from the father. They have the kids in shared custody. They would love to live in a community, but they are still with young kids and cannot really, for now, take this kind of decision for their life. So for those people, sometimes they have a little bit of money in the bank, savings. For example, I know that in France, I think we are one of the highest country in Europe with people having the most savings in the bank. But being aware that when you keep your money in the bank without using it, the bank is using it to actually continue to finance companies that are exploiting the resources, big projects of deforestation. I mean, the bank, this is what they are doing. So even if you are eating vegan every day and trying not to use your car, not taking a plane, actually your money is working against your values. And this is something that more and more people are actually understanding, and they don't feel okay with this. And they are like, but what can I do? Should I go to an ethical bank? But then that means I still need to trust that bank to finance only green projects. And it's still intermediates. And where is going my money? Still, it's hard to know. So those people, they can decide to take part of this money and bring it in a project like this, because there is a way in the financial system where we can have contributors like cooperants that are not living on the land, and those people that can touch the money, and somehow they will be part of the project. That means that even in the status, we give them, I think it's 40% of the votes, like system. If we have to end up in front of a judge, we cannot use consent, so it has to be vote. And they would have 40% of power of deciding, because they are part of the project. They bring their money in. And somehow what our experience with this in Ekoravi is that if there is a major conflict or really difficulties within the project, they are people that we can consult to support us, to bring us another point of view with a little bit of distance. And what they get from that contribution is not money, because we don't want that money makes money. Speculation is out of what we want to experience in this project. Capitalism is okay because it's capital, but not speculation. But those people, they are part of the project. That means every time they want to visit, they will have a space to spend few days, stay with us, share the community experience during few days, and then go back to their life if they want to. But the idea is that they have a sense of belonging to the project. So we keep them informed, and they are always welcome to visit. And what we know is that in Ekoravi, they are really good at it. Like, they really manage to nourish these contributors. They have 50 people that are bringing money, and whenever they want to get it back, it's a contract. So the contract says you can have this money back in those terms, and we have to get it to give it back. Like, this is our priority because they are allowing the project to happen, and our priority is to give back the money when they need it. And for that, we'll even give a nuclear button in the contract, which is if we ever don't respect the condition of the contract, after 2 years, they don't get their money back and they don't know why. And because we are like, oh, we cannot, we are doing other things or something, then they can go to the court and ask for the cooperative dissolution right away, sell everything to auction, and then get back their money. So it's really a very risky thing for us not to, to honor our commitment to the contributors. So it's really something that brings trust. Again, trust that it's a connection and goes both ways. And also a sense of, okay, I'm doing something good with my money, and I can also connect with this project and experience a little bit of this life whenever I want. So
thank you, Sandra. And we are getting to a closure to this conversation, and I'd like that you give me something about you, something about Sandra, the woman, the mother. What can you say about you, and what can you say about your essence as a human being?
Thank you for this question. Yeah. I think I made a big turn in my life. I was in the corporate world, and I was really part of the system before. And I think becoming a mother really changed my perspective in many things. Like, how can I put my energy at the service of a greater good, of something that will bring something better for my kids' generation? It started to really be strong in my system. And I started to be anxious because I felt powerless. I felt that I couldn't do anything. Like, me, Sandra, what can I do? I'm powerless. And suddenly, by creating this project and thinking, okay, what can I do in my little world? How can I just contribute to something a bit better or that makes more sense? And I could see that by starting this movement, my anxiety started to go away, because I was turning this anxiety into action. And then suddenly I was not feeling powerless. I was thinking that, okay, I'm going towards a direction. Maybe I will never reach what I want. And I have to let go of the perfectionism of, I have to accept the uncertainty also of what I'm doing. But it just feels so right. It feels so right. And so right for my system, and not right in general, but for my own system. Like, it feels good, actually. It feels. And the other thing I can share is that this summer, I had a very challenging moment in my personal life to go through. And I arrived one day at the forum day, and I didn't even want to go because I was feeling so overwhelmed by sadness, and I didn't know how to cope with this. And then I came to the forum and I brought it to the group, and I could really cry it out and bring it. And I felt so safe to actually completely bring this out of myself as it was, the level of sadness, the level of fear. And I felt so much that the group was holding the space, and it was not too much for them because it was a group. If I would have vent that way to my best friend, it would have been so much for her, she would have been overwhelmed by my sadness, but somehow it was a group. And I think it was so healing for me, just that they were there holding the space. And that day I thought, okay, I'm understanding at a very deep level what we are doing, how much it's different. So
thank you, Sam. Thank you for accepting the invitation and go with me in this conversation and to bring yourself and your wisdom, what you are learning, and what you are creating.
Thank you so much for inviting me, for your questions. I'm very, very happy that we could share that moment. And I'm very curious to watch others of your interviews. And yeah, I hope that we will cross paths soon.
Até já.
Até já. Obrigada.